Here's my zombie Armageddon. You know, what are we doing after the zombie apocalypse? Here's the losers. Not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is just for you to have a look at. It's pretty obvious, some of these. Go on. Everybody okay with that? If you're on a phone, some of this is going to be a bit small. I apologize. I probably can blow it up. There you go. I can do if we go. I'm trying to keep this as manual as possible. It's not a standard slide deck presentation. I'm actually sharing my desktop with you because it means I can jot about and move things around. We expected to see manufacturing. I was surprised that IT and telecoms was a loser. I expected that to go great. One of my close friends' son-in-law works for Zoom, just bought in about 6 months before COVID, so absolutely smashed it. Retail, obvious, etc. So hospitality and leisure going to get smashed. I'm surprised it was as little as minus 54%, but shouldn't be any big surprises there. If you're in one of those sectors, you have my sympathy. Winners, again, pretty obvious. I thought that was quite amazing which ones have actually shot up. Ocado was going to be a no-brainer. If you could have got in February and bought Ocado shares, you'd have smashed it. I've just here my favorite stock, my favorite person in the world right now has just become the second richest, young Mr. Musk at Tesla. And if you got into Tesla stock when they were 240, then you're doing okay, etc. So winners and losers. Balance of it all, an 11% drop. The balance of everything was 11%. You know, do we think that's reasonable? Based on what's happened, I would have said that wasn't a bad result if you only dropped 11%. Just want to look at some of the stats. Look, you can go and get your own. I'm not going to spend hours on this, but you know that's pretty expected. There's the announcement of the vaccine, so instant jump. Imagine what's going to happen when it actually starts getting rolled out. So March next year, what's likely to happen? And you'll see from the economic reviews that we do, some of you have seen through this before, that there's a good chance that the world's going to explode and we'll be off and running. We'll see who recovers. Here's COVID in context of all of the other issues. Now we've looked at all sorts of crashes. There's your 87 crash down here. Black Monday, that was horrific when it happened. People were jumping off of buildings and causing all sorts of problems. Dot-com bubble was actually almost as bad as the financial crisis. Yet you wouldn't have known that when you went into the financial crisis. They called it a Great Recession. It was actually worse than the Great Depression. Great Depression was 4 quarters of negative growth. The W recession was 6 quarters of negative growth. It was the worst crisis ever in the history of our economy. And yet, where did we go from there? Straight up. And Brexit smashed it a little bit, and COVID has given us a bit of a kick in the shins as well. Interesting, major drops in the market never go below previous major drops in the market. So we know when this drop has reached a certain level, it's never going to go below this drop. This drop didn't go below this drop. This drop didn't go below this drop. And guess what? This one didn't go below this one. So the market knows when it's hit the bottom or when it's about to return. Bottom isn't here. That's the fear. Oh, it'll all go to custard and we'll all lose all our money. But the truth is, eventually it gets to be cheap. And when things get to be cheap, what do people start to do? They start to buy. The housing market hits a previous low. Guess what? It stops, sits on the bottom, and then people start to buy. So when do we expect this to bounce? Well, it's already bounced because it's back up to there already. Does that make sense? There's a very fast drop and a very fast bounce. Does that make sense? Again, I said I wouldn't spend too much time on this. Lots of charts that show you what's happened. There's the bounce already. Like we're back up to where we were based on COVID plus vaccine. Lots of charts you can go and look at. This one's fascinating. It shows the volatility since about 1930. But if you look at this here, that little blip there in the context of the whole journey. But again, all I wanted you to do was see that in context. So that crash there was actually not as big as this crash here. That's the W, big W for 2005, 2008. And it was actually bigger than this one. It dropped slightly more, it lasted slightly longer, and it bounced about as much. Again, these are just ideas. What you should see, if you are younger than me, and most of you are younger than me, if you're in your 30s, 40s, maybe 50s, then generally the market is up. It's up. Can everybody see that? I usually ask that as a question, and most people say, yeah, it's up. It's up. Yes or no?
Yep.
Again, I'm going to try and just expand my screen because it's not taking into account everything. Is that better? So it's up.
Yeah.
So what you should see though is this. Now this has been going. I sat down with Darren one day and he pulled out all the charts, and because he's a chartist, and he said, right, let's go back 300 years. We presented this at Google. And basically for 300 years, it's been doing 18 years up, 14 years flat, 18 years up, 14 years flat. In the last 3 flats, there's been a W recession. Is anybody starting to see a pattern? Why is there a pattern? People keep doing the same thing, but they keep doing it bigger and bigger and bigger because there's getting to be more and more and more of us. So if it follows a pattern, then what's the chance that it's going to continue to follow that pattern? And is COVID in the long term actually going to make any real difference in the big picture space? Sure, it's going to make difference to the guy whose pub went bust and the ladies who run and gentlemen who run hospitals and people that died. I get that. I'm not trying to belittle it. But in the overall world global economy, which is where we all run our businesses, is actually going to make that much difference. So all sorts of types of recessions been talked about. Here's the 4 typical descriptions. Basically, if anybody's telling you, I thought this one was going to be a U recession. And the truth is, COVID's created a unprecedented shift in the world business, which means we actually don't know what's going to happen next. But do I believe that growth is coming? Absolutely. Based on those charts, do I believe this is a short period of confusion and uncertainty that will create massive change? It will shift the world the way that the 70s, the 74 recession did. Out of that came a whole bunch of new technologies and new industries. So it's a complete shift. So which one of these will it be? Well, it feels like it's been a bit of all of them, but let's see what happens next. So what I would love you to do is Google, those of you that haven't, if you haven't got one of these on the wall, is Google economic clock. Go and find one by a company called Count. It's an accounting firm, so really original, C-O-U-N-T, Count. And they produce this economic clock. Some of you have seen this. For some reason, I'm not quite getting the same. Can I move this down a bit? No, I can't. I'm sorry, the slides are not quite as tidy as I would like them to be. COVID hit, we were just crossing this line between hesitant, uneven recovery and general recovery. What tends to happen is if you've got 14 years of flat and 18 years of up, the 18 years of up starts here. You get 5 years of recovery beginning, which is turmoil, hesitant, uneven, not quite sure what's happening. Either side of 9 o'clock, or 99 o'clock, according to this, either side of 9 o'clock, you get a lot of turmoil, 3 years of quite serious turmoil, where as the market starts to expand, corporations that aren't well funded start to go bust. The big corporations that have run out of cash go bust. You see the big retail industries going bust on quarters, January, March, June, and September, because that's when the rentals come in. So they tend to have to find rent for 200 stores across the country, can't make their rental payments. And that general recovery sorts out the men from the boys or the girls from the ladies, whichever analogy you want to use. And what's left is then, yeehaw, here we go. And that then becomes 10 years of fast growth. In other words, in this space, you get 5 years of hesitant, uneven recovery, some turmoil. There's a market reset in there called the 87 crash. There's your market reset as the market overheats. There's your market reset as the market overheats. And then off we go. Oh God, sorry, I keep grabbing the charts. Stop doing that. And then the last 10 years is fast growth. So that's what we're expecting. That's why our belief is now's the right time to grow your business. What are people saying? Typically 60, 70, 60% of leaders are focused on going forwards. What you're talking about today is going forwards, planning new improvements. All the clients I'm talking to right now are talking about opening new projects, opening new products, opening new markets. Most of the clients I'm working with at the moment are looking to recruit. So we are all focused on growth. We were focused on growth before COVID hit. We're focused on growth now.